Season, definitely something to always keep in mind, especially this type of year. We're going to check back in with Chief Meteorologist Alana Brophy. She mentioned earlier a lot of different species out there. Alana, tell us more.
Yeah, migrating birds. We're catching them right now live at Sand Hollow State Park, our road tour stop, and you're taking a look at those pelicans on the water. Boy, when you talk fire season, you think southern Utah. We've got drought and very dry conditions, so the moisture we've received in the last 48 hours, very welcome. We desperately need it, especially as we trek into those warmer months. And we know with high pressure on the way, this area will be in the 90s later this week. So the heat is going to be there, and we're going to have to do our part when it comes to fire season. I can't get over the pelicans. Love them. Love them. And there's a ton of wildlife out here, and you don't necessarily link that with Sand Hollow, but you should. And it's not just the scorpions and snakes. And if you love those, good for you. I love that for you. I don't agree, but we do like the wildlife out here. All right, let's look at those conditions. 62 degrees right now in Hurricane at Sand Hollow State Park. We're running below average, but it's still a really pleasant day. Just think about it. Along the Wasatch Front, when we hit 60s, we're pretty excited. So a cool down here, and I think a lot of people were ready for it with that moisture coming in. We're lacking wind, but all in all, clouds, and you see the clouds around the mountains, and a few showers will hold on. As we take a look from our Black Desert sky cam, the sun sneaking out in Ivins, the Red Rock looking as pretty as ever. They have seen showers and thunderstorms for the last 2 days, and Washington County tapping into this moisture, and it's all associated with this low that keeps storms churning today. We're getting some wraparound moisture. Forewarn radar sweeping the region dry in the north after a very soggy start to our Tuesday, but southern Utah in and around Panguitch towards Beaver County, the Iron and Washington County line, you can see those echoes of moisture. That also extends over towards King County, Garfield County with some showers. We'll take it in the southern half of the state, and we're not totally done. We're going to decrease in coverage as we get through the next several hours, but as we head into tomorrow, there will be spots that hold on to wet weather. How about some 60s, upper 50s there in Cache Valley? They just hit 60 degrees in Logan. We've got 40s and 50s and 60s on the eastern side of the state where you're catching those 40s. That's in places where we're dealing with the rain. Cedar City has been soggy throughout the day. Showers continue. It's wet weather, and the temperatures represented with those 40s. 63 right now in St. George. As we get through the next several hours along the Wasatch Front, we will stay dry with partly cloudy skies. We're going to see those low 60s turning into 50s with cooler conditions on deck for the overnight. But as we head into the midweek, we're going to stay unsettled, even along the Wasatch Front, where we're not anticipating a tremendous amount of moisture for our Wednesday, but we stay a bit unsettled. There's that low. See it in the desert southwest? It's counterclockwise flow keeping us unsettled, bringing that wraparound moisture. And you notice in the last few hours how that has a pretty good grip on the southern half of the state. With this counterclockwise flow, northern Utah, even though it's not getting moisture, does see an impact. And that's wind. We're going to talk about that because the wind is going to change just a little bit here. Live view from the Colonial Flag Tower camera where the wind is moving the flag. We see the clouds. We see a bit of a break in the clouds, but the winds are going to become more easterly. We did see some downslope wind in northern Utah last night, but the positioning of the low is actually going to call for stronger downslope winds, and a wind advisory has been issued for portions of northern Utah. This is the Wasatch Front, and Cache Valley was added to this. Those easterly downslope winds, enhanced canyon winds here. Due to the positioning of the low, we could see gusts up to 50 miles per hour. This goes into effect at 6 p.m. tonight. So we're just on the heels of this beginning, and it's going to hold through tomorrow morning. So tie down your loose objects now in northern Utah because those winds will be whipping and kicking. Futurecast shows us when they really start to peak. Here they are tonight. The advisory goes into effect at 6. By 9 p.m. we're going. We get through the overnight hours into Wednesday morning. The early morning hours bring some of those gusts. Look at those high numbers. High 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts here with the positioning of that low, and we keep it going into Wednesday morning, and you're able to see especially places like Park Lane, Farmington, Weber Canyon. As we look towards Bountiful, even Salt Lake, up towards the University of Utah, could see some stronger winds by the evening hours. Really, things start to decrease there. As we look at the futurecast, it shows the potential for some moisture, and the Storm Prediction Center also calls for the general thunderstorm threat. See that moisture into central Utah and some in eastern Utah? Well, this is going to favor the higher terrain. So lingering moisture into our Wednesday keeps us unsettled, but we should see storm development really loving the mountains more than the valleys. Here we are as we get through our Wednesday. The West Desert has potential. Could see a few pop-ups in the southern half of the state. Thursday, we start to dry. High pressures on the way. Upper level futurecast shows you that. As we kind of look at the breakdown here of that low moving out of here, high pressure moves in, and that's going to allow for the warmth. That storm threat is a general thunderstorm threat that you see there. There's the high. The ridge wants to build, and that's going to bring above average temperatures, a warming trend, more sunshine, clearer conditions, and you're going to notice that because we're going to go above average. Temperatures for tomorrow, we'll see a mix of them along the Wasatch Front into the 60s and 70s. We will see southern Utah getting into the upper 70s. We're rebounding, getting closer to seasonal norms, but we get above it. Let me show you in the 7-day here. We start to cook 90s. By Friday, close out the work week in southern Utah with sunshine and low 90s. Whew, just talking about it makes me sweaty. Here's the Wasatch Front, and we are going to see the temperature trend increasing as well, where we get the potential for the 80s. It is going to feel beautiful. A couple days in the 70s here, and then we jump with that high pressure. A bit unsettled. We could be grazed by some storms with the chance of some storms a few days towards the end of the 7-day. All in all, not too bad. The wet weather to kick off May, we always talk about, is a good thing. Sand Hollow State Park is a great thing, and I hope it's on your summer list. That's why we started with it for the Good for Utah Road Tour. I'll send it back to Brian and Sarah.